Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking Faith, the weekly devotional where we spend a little bit of time just reflecting on the word of Scripture together. And just before I read our Bible passage today, I just want to encourage you to get yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and just find a little bit of space to relax as we talk faith together. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So for those who are able to worship with us here on Sunday in person, you'd have heard miracle upon miracles. I actually woke up early on Sunday. I woke up so early I didn't really know what to do with myself. I already got myself prepared for church. I got all my notes for speaking all printed out. I didn't really know what else to do. So I decided around about 7 o'clock, 7:30, maybe a little bit later than that, to go for a bit of a walk. I walked around the park right behind our church, and then after a while, sunrise came. And I was just in awe, just at the beauty that a sunrise brings. And to be honest, I was just in awe about our Creator who created this wonderful earth for us. And it got me thinking about the concept of worship, because I was worshipping Him in that moment. Worship is something that's so important, and I think quite often we kind of boil it down to what we do here at church on Sunday, or when we spend times with God, like that moment I had in the park, or when we have quiet times. That's kind of how we kind of box in our worship. But I think actually it's something more than that, because we are all truly worshipping people. Every person on this earth worships something. And the reason why I say that is when I look into Scripture, I can see Paul going around on his missionary journey, coming across a bunch of people who had created a shrine to an unknown God. And they didn't even know what they were worshipping, but they needed to worship it. And Paul just explains the gospel and says, you've been worshipping God. Keep worshipping God. He's the one that deserves your worship. Here in modern day, many people worship through their faith, but many people don't have a faith. They worship many other things. They worship their family, they worship their work, maybe even worship football. That's quite a big one, to be honest. Worshipping is so important, and I think we have that hole in us that needs to worship something. And so many people fill it with many things, but actually the only thing that really matters is that we worship God. That's the only way to fill that void of desire to worship. And I really think we can sum that up into those two areas of seeking to worship God on a Sunday, or maybe within our own personal quiet times. And we don't really think much more of it than that, but actually we're called to worship always. The passage that we read calls us to give our bodies as a living sacrifice to God, holy and pleasing. That is your true and proper worship. That is a great passage, and I've came to it before several times. I love it, but essentially what it's calling us to do is to live our lives with Jesus at the center. That's how we truly worship. And when you think about it, if we're seeking to do that, that's worshiping with every part of our being constantly. So when you go out to do your shopping, you can worship God through doing that. When you go to your work, you can worship God through how you work. When you spend time with your family, you can worship God through how you spend time with your family. Really, it comes down to seeking to live with Him and for Him. And that's how we can worship. And that's so important. And I hope that you've been encouraged by our message today, but then on top of that, reminded in your day-to-day life as you go about your daily duties, that you're worshiping God with everything you do. And the great opportunity that brings to bring a smile to His face. Hopefully this video has encouraged you. God bless.